Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this regularly scheduled Township Board of Supervisors meeting. Our first item will be a pledge to the flag. Please join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We've had no executive sessions since our last meeting, so at this point, I would like to open up the floor to communication with citizens. If there's anyone who would like to address the board, you can come forward and be recognized. If there's anybody in the listening audience that wants to address us, you can also do that by clicking the raise hand button, and we'll recognize you on Zoom. Sir, name and address for the record, please.
Gene Schrum, 61 Roseland Drive,
Okay.
Lynchburg.
Yeah.
It's about the B ordinance.
Okay.
Choose, I guess, are you accepting or not? I'm not sure. I didn't get a chance to come on the other one because we were told this was the week day that they were going to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
And that was by the zoning guy told me it was the end of this month. So that's why I didn't know.
Okay.
But I have pictures of different things with the bees across the street from us. Do you know what size a beehive is?
Do I know the exact dimensions?
What is the sizes that you can have? For the, for this, that you can have.
I don't know that we did it by size of hive. Usually a hive is sized to cover the colony of bees that is surrounding one queen.
Yeah, but I looked it up and here's, I'll show you. It says some typical beehive is about 22 inches by 16 inches.
Sounds about right.
Okay,
How about how high it is?
well, I had seen another one that said 10 inches. Now that didn't show you here, but I looked up another one. That said
So
10
22 by 16 is
22 long, 16 wide, 10 inches high.
okay.
Okay.
And your point is
well,
is that in the ordinance?
well, that's why I didn't know what's in the ordinance about what's beehives. I don't know if there's anything, is there anything in there, what size?
So
No.
I guess I'm not quite sure what the point is that you're getting at.
Well, could it be 4 foot high, one hive?
One hive is one queen.
Yeah, so that could be 4 foot high? The whole
You
box
have-
sections? Well, the reason I'm showing you, okay, here. I have pictures from last March until today. One picture is a little blurry. That's why I wonder what is the size that she can of the hives. Supposed to be,
I think it's limited by the frames. I think it's limited to 10 frames
And brains.
under the definition of the nucleus.
so I don't know what's frames. But I can show you the pictures here.
The dimension.
Yeah.
22 to 16 by 10. Is that right?
I just want to show you. I dated it because I have it on my phone, but it won't come out. Okay, this is as March of last year, 22-20, March 9, 2022. This is, didn't come out very clear, but this is today. The same place. That's why I said, how big are the hives supposed to be?
So there are multiple hives here. And there are
Yeah.
multiple hives in the stack.
Yes, that's what I said.
So-
How high can you go if you're allowed so many hives?
So our solicitor answered that, I believe.
And then it's also limited to, depending on the size of the lot.
Well, I think in our area where I'm at, it's like 8 feet.
So that would
More than
be
between
8.
1/4 and 1/2 acre.
Yeah, that's like 8 hives. So that's why I said, how big is a hive? Is it 4 feet high? Is it down here?
No, a hive is a unit, not the size of it, but I think a standard hive size is a certain number of slots in a frame.
Yeah,
So-
it's 10.
Okay,
Okay, so and all those I was showing you, there's more than 10 in each of them.
so those are multiple hives.
Yes.
Yes,
If only allowed 8, when are they gonna get rid of?
so we just approved this.
Yeah, I know.
last meeting.
I was just wondering,
And the whole purpose of that was to set the parameters around it. So for the side property, if it's the one that I think we're discussing, it would be 8 frames.
yes, 8 frames is considered a box, because like I said, they just added more.
No. Frame is, I mean, you can stack boxes on top of each other and have multiple hives.
Yeah, so that more, that's several hundred, right?
You're already around until
8,
Right.
then why? You passed it or you didn't pass the,
We did pass the order
okay, then why did they add more to what they already had?
since 2 weeks ago.
Yes. Because I just showed you pictures from now until then, they added more.
So if you would pass your information over to our community development department. They are going to take a look into that. Is that correct?
that would be correct.
Yes.
And some other pictures, this is what we get out of our pool, and use the skin,
Okay.
that's bees.
So I think part of the ordinance also is that they have to provide a water supply
Yes,
so that they're
And a
not
barrier.
going, and a barrier. So there may be some violations that we have to check into, but again, our community development department isn't running around looking for violations. When you come in with information like this, they will take that information and go out and they will research it and they will do the appropriate. I believe you.
so should I give them all this?
You can give them
Because
all
I'll give a
that,
picture of my
yes.
truck with the crap on it from the bees.
I'm familiar with the family that lives there, so we'll see what, and they know what they're supposed to do as well, so. They have.
Here's a little note from my wife that all that goes on. Alright. Thank you.
And you,
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Anyone on Zoom? That's your.
Sure.
All right, then we'll move on to our engineering reports. Diana?
And no updates to the submitted report. If you have any questions, happy to answer. And also there were some questions last time about the building project, and Scott has volunteered to come tonight. For any questions you have. He knows all about it.
Okay, do you want to do that now, Scott?
Whenever you like to, fine. Wait till the end when we talk about the bucket for open house.
Sure,
That's it.
yeah, let's do that. Any questions for Diana? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
John, civil engineering?
Just a couple of quick updates. Davies Drive work is continuing. Work excavating is out there, removing topsoil. As part of their project, they are putting in a water line. We talked to the board about that. There's a water line that's gonna loop the system. So one of their first tasks was to put North Water Company's pipeline to loop it on Davies Drive, so they're working on that and also removing topsoil. So start to see that ramp up pretty quickly.
Are those manholes higher than the road surface?
In some places they are, and actually, some of those manholes are off the road surface and they sit between the road and the sidewalk. So there's a few of those that are put in that are gonna stick up, and it won't be an impact certainly on the road or the sidewalk. It'll be in the grass strip, yes.
But there's one that's closest to the railroad tracks in the center of the road that looks like it's high.
There
Is that-
may be,
Is that
yeah,
gonna
that
be lower?
probably, I can't in the road surface, it's gonna, don't think that there's gonna be a big hump in the road.
I was wondering if the road is,
That won't happen, so
Yeah,
they'll make
because-
adjustments to that.
the road base is there, and I think that thing sticks up about 4 feet out of the center of it.
So there'll probably be an adjustment there. We did go out and as-built the railroad tracks to make sure as our road ties in. Work out.
Looks good, though.
Yeah,
The
they're
work is good.
just getting started, and I think they'll be pretty quick on it. The only other update is we're starting to receive shop drawings in for the Arley work. We did issue a notice to proceed to the contractor JDI, so we're starting to get documentation and hopefully you'll see that going pretty quickly. Other than those two updates and what I submitted in my report, any questions by the board, I'd be more than happy to.
Anyone have a question? All right, so I do. The no left turn at Carroll and Edgewood. Is that to turn left heading north on Edgewood toward, or is that going the other direction, turning across?
Out of Carroll, can't turn left.
Can't
That
turn
turns
left to get onto Edgewood? Okay,
And just,
it just says no left turn at the intersection. It doesn't say which direction, because that would make it very difficult to get into the businesses on that corner of the road.
just to clarify, I asked a question of the developer. That what has changed to prompt this, and I have not received a response yet, so. I think they need to come back to this board, at least. Advise the board what has changed with that development. What has changed is in York Township, but there definitely was a change to the point. That's prompting PennDOT to require this township. to
But isn't
make-
that intersection at Carroll Road in our township?
It is,
Yeah,
but as part of their plan approval, which we were unaware of. That got tacked on and we were like, that's interesting, and I'm not certain. If anybody on our review process knew about it.
do we have to comply?
How this started is they sent an email saying, can you authorize? And I said, we didn't know about it ahead of time, therefore. Sent it up to the manager, and he communicated with the developer, and they were blaming a previous traffic engineer that may have acquired that prohibition. It was news to, I think, everybody on our side of the table, and that's why we're gonna dig further and we'll probably be hearing more about the plan.
Okay. All right, thanks, John. Next, we have our consent agenda, items A through E. Are there any that anyone would like to have removed for further discussion?
I'll move to approve consent agenda items A through E. Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, bids, proposals, contracts, and agreements. First is to authorize us to execute Blue Horn proposal for design and bid phase services for Springersbury Park lighting, security, and electrical system upgrade in an amount not to exceed $71,300.
Mr. Chairman, as the board's aware, we did receive a $1 million grant through DCED for a project of this nature. I requested a scope of services from Blue Horn to design the electrical layout, lighting, all the improvements to the lighting, security cameras, and the like. Included with that is replace a transformer in an aging transformer in the park. It's majority of
These contract costs are part of that $1 million grant eligible.
Yes.
Dare I ask what the color of the LED lights?
The poles will be black or dark bronze, I'm sure, something.
That's not the color you were asking.
The color of the light.
2,700, 3,000, 5,000, where are we?
Yet to be determined.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move for the authorization of the contract with Newport Horn for construction services on the Spring Township Park.
71,300.
71,300.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Authorization to purchase Mako LS 300 GKWR concrete pump through multi-equip incorporated in an amount not to exceed $83,115.25. So Sourcewell discount contract number.
Mr. Chairman, this is in the general fund capital improvements project in Public Works. It is a concrete pump for them to do various repairs, stormwater pipe repairs, and any other where they can't get the concrete close enough, the concrete truck close enough to their work. This is budgeted, and the Sourcewell discount is a federal purchasing program. If you have any technical questions, Mr. Craybill is here.
How far can you pump it?
We, as part of this purchase program, we're getting 300 feet of 1.5 inch pipe. That's to go up storm pipes. Because to this point when we're doing it, we have to put it in buckets, haul it up the pipe, put it in, bring it back out. So we can go 300 feet from either end, so we should get through almost any stormwater pipe that's large enough for a man to get in, that we should be able to repair. We're also getting 150 feet of 3-inch pipe. Now, that 3-inch discharge pipe is for typical concrete, 3/4 inch jack. The smaller pipe is for 1/2 inch jack. That would be used for the barn or other projects that we can't get concrete pumps. But the concrete truck's close enough to where we need to do the repair, do the structural.
And you mentioned 1.5 inch, right? The paperwork says 2-inch discharge for the 300 feet and 3-inch discharge for 100
Yeah, I'm
feet.
sorry.
It's 2 inches.
Remember, you know that. Questions about that?
Mr. Chairman, I move for authorization to purchase the Mako concrete pump through multi-equip in an amount not to exceed $83,115.25. A Sourcewell discount contract.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Stay here.
What's that?
Okay.
Okay, authorization to purchase Smith and Loveless model 4B, 3B, Star One vacuum prime complete pump through Hydro Pneumatic Sales Company in amount not to exceed $27,465.
Mr. Chairman, this is a brand new pump for one of our pump stations. Which pump was it? Heritage Hills?
Heritage Hills.
This is a Spring and Sperry sewer fund purchase.
We're buying one, we're swapping out the oldest, how to refurbish and come out.
That's what the intent is, to
So the refurb one will go on the shelf in case there's an issue.
Well,
Place the others.
the intent is right now to put the new one in. Pull the oldest one out, have it redone. Swap that in, we're 35 years old, swap that into the other hole.
And then
Have that
refurb
probably
that.
go as a, if there's enough good parts left, have that go as a spare. Really not legal to run duplex pump station with one pump without portable pumping sitting there, sure, air and chills, it probably wouldn't be all that like that. That's the only thing. So.
All right, do I hear a motion?
Chairman, I move. Authorize. Purchase. Of Smith and Loveless Model 4B 3B Star 1 vacuum primed complete pump through Hydromatic Sales Company Inc. in an amount not to exceed $27,400.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, authorization to purchase Alfa Laval Aldec 556 centrifuge rotating assembly through Alfa Laval Incorporated and not to exceed $313,000.
Mr. Chairman, this is not in the budget. This would be a shared sewer expense. And since Denny's doing a wonderful job, I'll just let him keep going.
Okay, currently we have two Alfa Laval centrifuges that we run to dewater Iowa solids. Before it's lime stabilized. Since I've been here, both of them have been out at various times for repair. When they're out, our solids loadings are such that we have to run 24/7 in a single one, or 24 hours a day, 2 to 3 days a week, depending on where we're at. And that's a lot of overtime. And when they come back, it may be out for 6 months at a time, so that's builds a lot of backlog. So we actually had this, we had a price previously, it was actually higher than this, but Alfa Laval came back and gave us this price for a complete rotating assembly so that our mechanics can in and out. One, so we don't have downtime. Every time we go down, we have to, again, for backup purposes, if the other one were to go down, we have that portable unit brought in from Massachusetts, I think, and rent them daily to run, because we have to reverse office, option. So this would give us the backup we need. We currently have one out, it should be coming back very shortly. So
What's the lead time on this?
42 weeks. 42 weeks. Yes.
So go order it.
And I think the important thing to note is when the two that we have are the original. And they were put in 2001 or 2. And they've been rebuilt several different times over that time. But if when we're down for one, if that one goes down,
Then we're in a world of
then
hurt.
we're incurred.
So you said this was a shared expense?
Shared sewer expense. Since it's at the wastewater treatment.
So is this our portion?
No, that's the total portion, but it'll come out of that shared capital fund.
Move to authorize the purchase of the Alfa Laval centrifuge rotating assembly through Alfa Laval Inc. in an amount not to exceed $350,000.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Subdivisions and land development. We have SD 2022-0002 4100 Lincoln Highway LLC.
Good evening to the board of supervisors. This is a multi-year plan here. It actually dates back to 2020, the end of the year prior to my coming here, but with that said, this is just the subdivision portion of this plan. This plan was a subdivision and a land development plan. The request of the applicant is just to do the subdivision portion of this project. The land development portion will be continuing moving forward with some work that needs to be done to get that portion of the plan in front of you at a later date. This is just the subdivision portion. Again, this is the two townships. It's in Helen Township and Springersbury Township. The portion of lot one that's in Springersbury Township is 4.67 acres of the 5.61 acre lot. And then lot two is in Helen Township. So only a portion of this subdivision is in Springersbury Township. We do have representation here tonight from Site Design Concepts. We have Neil Metzger here to speak on this plan. We have a minimal amount of comments strictly relating to the subdivision plan, not the land development plan. If you're looking at the comment letter from First Capital Engineering, they do indicated that there's going to be all of the detail will be forthcoming in the land development portion as far as all the particulars that would be relevant for the land development portion of the project, which would be a future warehouse on lot one in Springersbury Township. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Metzger to speak to questions that the board of supervisors may have in regard to the subdivision plan.
Hey, good evening. Yeah, it's a 10-acre lot, undeveloped. It's been there for quite some time. It's behind the office of former Representative Espy, just east of Sheets, a large tract that's between Sheets and this particular property. The part in Springersbury zone flexible development, and the part in Helen is commercial industrial. So we're proposing to subdivide it into two lots, commercial industrial development, and mostly lot one's in Springersbury Township, lot two, Helen Township. We are processing land development plans in both municipalities, well, each municipality for lot one and lot two, to construct a warehouse. But tonight, we're just requesting that the board consider and hopefully grant the four requested waivers associated with just the final subdivision plan, and then conditionally approve the subdivision subject to some very minor things. Sewage planning's done. So it's really, we want to get this plan recorded so we can get the appropriate street addresses assigned and tax parcels assigned, so then we can get all that information put on the land development, which we hope will be processed here late summer or fall, since we have all the outside agency comments or approvals taken care of this. There's no proposed improvements right now. Both lots have obviously the street frontage. So if you have any questions, the waivers are pretty standard stuff, preliminary plan. Preliminary plan specifications, plan size and scale, and then all of the improvement specifications that are really associated with constructing improvements that are part of a large scale subdivision.
So there is a comment in our tracking sheet on waiver number 4 on the improvement specifications. Understand there's land development plan come, and it says the land development plan will feature all of these requirements with regard to monuments, etc. But for the purposes of the subdivision plan, they are not deemed necessary. If they're not deemed necessary, why do we have a waiver here? I'm trying to understand that comment.
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking that there was a process problem here. Do we waive them for land development and or does that waive them for the whole plan? Is this a modification to allow them to be addressed in the subdevelopment?
I'm sorry, what was the modification to allow them to
So this is the improvement specifications. They're requesting a waiver to defer the requirements for the improvements of monuments, street aprons, sewage disposal, water supply, all of those things.
Oh,
And they're
They're asking for-
deferring, to clarify, they're deferring it to the land development plan.
I mean, I
If
think
they
it's-
were running together, it would probably be cleaner. But now, we sort of want to get. Development, which is in both townships.
So my question was, is it truly a waiver or is it a modification requesting to defer it to subdevelopment?
Or flipping, mine's the same question, different angle. Why does section 289-2539 apply to a plan?
It applies to both land development and subdivision. Technically, even during a subdivision, if you've got an adjoining differential zone, you have a stream from it in a subdivision, even though you're not putting a building in, even though you're not putting parking in or any of that stuff. So you're mandated through the subdivision plan to do all of those. Back with your land development, you're mandated again to either waive it or install those physical features. So because this is a subdivision standalone being followed up by the land development, those improvements at this moment aren't gonna be put on the table or shown on the plan because you really need to see where the parking and the buildings are gonna be located. And that's why both the subdivision and the land development each require those buffering. Of course, there's no stormwater here at this point. Stormwater is a function of.
Building.
But sidewalks, technically sidewalks, if the
Create
board
small-
said, hey, we want sidewalks as part of the subdivision. I don't think you would. Because the land development's gonna follow up with that, and at that point, it would be appropriate to look at where the driveways are and the sidewalks would be.
So a waiver of the matter here does not create a waiver there.
You get a second bite at the apple to review those. Now, I will say.
The way it works.
I think as long as you use the defer line. In other words, it wouldn't be a straight
That's-
waiver,
that was-
you're waiving it for this subdivision plan. Deferring those requirements to land development,
Okay,
so you're not waiving them completely. For this
Yeah.
project.
or would we just modify it to defer to
Any future land development.
Yeah, I think either way.
the, I just don't like putting the word waive in
That's
there.
okay, yeah,
Right.
fine.
Right, I'm with you on that.
And I think the plan, the title sheet says waiver and modifications. So it could be a modification.
I'm a little confused. The lot one is gonna be 5.61 acres, of which apparently 1 acre is in Helen Township. Have they already approved the subdivision?
They have conditionally approved it. One of the conditions is obviously securing Stingsbury Township's approval. So yeah, so essentially everything's done on their end, other than getting signatures. And there's really not a, and we're doing a shared access easement. Because both lots will have the opportunity to access. In Helen, Beverly Drive, in Stingsbury, Market Street and Highway.
And that's a little bit of the tie up with the land development. We have to make sure we have two ways in and out. Our ordinance, when you hit a certain number of trips, you need two separate driveways. Pleasant Valley Road is an example, so. As we go through this, one of the requirements is gonna be that the connection. If, let's suppose they're gonna build lot one first, the development in Springersbury Township. Not only must they make the connection to Market Street, but they must make the connection to Campbell Road or whatever it is over there. So that's a little bit of the confusion on land development.
And the proposed lot line and easement were shown in the next plan. That's Steve. Great.
This came before us a couple years ago, didn't it?
Yes.
There's a word of requirement.
I thought at that time we had one, the use. That they would form additional warehousing there.
The land development plan has been, well, the subdivision and the lot two land development plan, the Helen Township lot, are both were conditionally approved.
Okay,
Subject, I mean, the biggest thing was PennDOT. We just got that permit officially in beginning of May. Really.
so I'm clear, the joint access easement agreement is to allow lot one to cross over lot two. Get to Bovary,
It's reciprocal.
and then
Lot 2 to get to
get to what?
Market Street.
So lot two is not gonna have its own separate access on Market Street?
No, nope. PennDOT would not allow that, and she never goes to.
Okay.
Township.
So for number 4, we change that to a modification is requested to defer the requirements of the waiver. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So 3 waivers, 1 modification to defer.
2 waivers and 2 modifications. Plan size and scale is a modification.
Chairman, with regard to subdivision 2020-0002, I move to approve the plan subject to the following waivers. Section 289-10 preliminary plan, section 289-11 preliminary plan specification. And approve subject to the following modifications, section 289-13A plan size and scale. And section 289-25-39 modification to defer the requirements of improved specifications of section 26 monuments, etc. until the land development plan.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to SD 2020-0002. Recommend approval of plan subject to the following conditions, section 289-11B.5, section 289-11B.16, section 289-11B, section 20, and 289-13.A, section 19. Section 289-11B22, section 289-11B27, section 289-41J11.C. He's wondering. That's it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, and so now we have land development 2023-0002 WCJ Pilgrim Wire 220 Boxwood Lane.
This is land development plan as it states. It's a 13,051 square foot building addition to the existing 48,019 square foot manufacturing building. It's on a 4.106 gross acre parcel. It's in our flexible development zone. Obviously, it's been through the planning commission and they recommended approval of the waiver modification for Patrick, as well as the plan itself. There are a total of 7 waivers/modifications requested by the applicant. And then we have some conditions of approval that are generally minor in context. We do have a couple of stormwater comments, and I'm going to have Mr. Luciani speak to those. But I will say that the applicant has responded to some of those already. allow him to speak to those, but we did get a response in regard to a couple comments that are in regard to the stormwater management report. But overall, I find this plan to be satisfactory with the things that are conditions in place. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Sandmeyer, representing the plan from Site Design Concepts.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
As it was mentioned, a fairly simple project on 220 Boxwood Lane, flexible development, and we are located on a cul-de-sac street. The old development's fairly old. As mentioned, we are here for 7 waivers of the project. In general, the project is basically a warehouse addition in the back of the existing building to enclose all the materials and basically materials that are outside right now. So we're not adding any employees or any truck docks or anything to that degree. It's basically to take everything that's outside and put it inside. That's the nature of it. With that being said, as mentioned about stormwater management, we're actually improving the site in that aspect by removing, I would say, almost half of the parking lot that's located in the front and making that into green space and stormwater management basin. So that's how we're handling the additions. And then John would probably want to chime in on the issues of the stormwater, as Randall mentioned, in that Boxwood Lane. Other than that, we're okay with, as mentioned, the planning commission approved all the waivers that we requested.
Recommended approval.
Recommended. Sorry. Well, you know. Planning commission.
I think I had to set you straight when I was on the planning commission.
Well, when I'm on my planning commission, you know, it's pretty good. Yeah, we approve it. I get corrected all the time. So I'm available to answer any questions on any of the waivers. And also, as mentioned, John may have some comments.
All right, John, what's up with stormwater?
Well, I think they had worked the last couple of days and provided some backup, which are satisfactory. I will say this, if during one of our staff meetings, they have a 18-inch pipe collecting the water from the back of the building, and it goes into, once it gets into the cul-de-sac, it goes into a 12-inch pipe. Right? They wrote to the developer, and I think Mark said, you know, at one time, you know, sometimes in its history being here in that cul-de-sac gets flooded. And because the pipe is undersized, and normally as you go downstream, the pipes get larger. So I think the fact that they are, and at one time, truth be known, both Irv Naylor and owned this property and the adjoining property. And so, you know, he probably built that cul-de-sac and put in a pipe, maybe a pipe that wasn't properly sized, and it's now a township cul-de-sac. They are reducing runoff. Basically, they're collecting the west side of their building, putting it into this basin. The net effect in all events is they're knocking down the volume of water that runs out into that street. Will it flood? Probably again, but and I told them very clearly, we're not going to make it change a pipe in township cul-de-sac. That's not what our motive is. So I think that having gone through their report and their additional documentation, I think we're pretty clear. I do want to mention Denny's here and Mark's here, because I know they're always looking for an opportunity to extend sewer service to other potential customers. The parcel to the west, that Metals USA, you know, we probably in the last 20 years, even site designers come in and they wanted to expand or change their lot disposal system, if you can believe it. And so as part of this plan, when Sheets was built up at the corner of Stonewood and Market, they ran a sewer down to this cul-de-sac. That's how they provided sewer to that area. This is Pilgrim Wire provided an easement, and they actually as-built the sewer out on the east side of the plant. So if Metals USA decides that they want to connect the public sewer, there is now that opportunity that they can connect into the public sewer, which I think is a big benefit. The other thing is, when they did this plan back in Irv Naylor days, what was that? Gotta be late eighties. Naylor got a waiver of sidewalk. And they have reapplied that note from the previous plan. That within 6 months, they would notice by the township, they would put sidewalks. Just throwing that out. So I think we got the stormwater worked out. There are a couple outstanding conditions, as Randall mentioned. But we do have a potential to get sewer for Metals USA, which has been something we were fooling around with for probably a decade or more.
So Bob, comment again on how you're reducing impervious. Explain.
If you flip back to the previous page, existing conditions. Along the whole frontage of that, from the building frontage to Boxwood Lane is all parking. Asphalt and parking. And then what we're doing, then if you go back to the land development plan, you can see that whole area right there is all green space and detached spaces. In the front yard.
And I visited during the height of their day and there were like 5 cars in the parking lot. And there's
They
a
have
huge
efficient
parking lot there. So it's a perfect way to take care of stormwater, return impervious to impervious and take care of the situation. Other questions?
Mr. Chairman, with regards to Plan LD 2023-0002, I move for approval, subject to the following modifications and waivers. Section 28910, Section 28913A, Section 289-21, Section 289-26, Section 289-27C, Section 289-35C, Section 289-15C, 3.C.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to LD 2023-0002, recommend approval subject to the following conditions. Section 289-12C, Section 289-10E. I'm sorry, 281-10E. And a general comment on page 85 of the Stormwater Management Report A6. Be a 24-inch pipe connecting into a 12-inch pipe. And general comment on page 97 of the Stormwater Management Report. The contour started at 5,900 square feet and reduced to 590 square.
Second.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening.
Any communication from supervisors this evening? I have one thing, did I forward Mark Robertson's comments to you? Their development did not get trash picked up last week, I guess it was. This week, I think they did. I called you previously about that. Are we continuing to have issues? It looks like ours are being picked up on a more
I think
steady basis.
they've had misses. I'm not gonna lie, they've had misses. But I don't think that it's to the extent that it was last year. And the misses that I've been notified of this year, they have gone out the very next day or at least that week and picked up those.
Anybody else heard anything? No.
They seem to be spotty. Last year, it
Yeah.
was like almost a whole day way behind. And I'm not trying to make excuses for them at all, but I never knew what went into driver training with that robotic arm. And when somebody calls off and they have to pull somebody from another municipality to take over, I think that's what's happening when they miss certain streets and whatnot.
It's not easy to get that training. I just want to make that comment.
But if anyone notifies the board, forward it on to me. I send an email to my contact each and every time.
Texted me and said, "This is Mark." And I thought it was you. Live in our township. What are you complaining to me about your trash for?
Bring it.
Check those dumpsters, Danny, make sure you're not putting it.
Every week.
All right, solicitors report. Anything?
Well, I thought I didn't have anything, but now I gotta check into the illegal dumping. But other than that, I don't have anything.
What's the exact size of the beehive?
Exactly. Take your tape out to the,
Just, I knew it was gonna happen. What can I say?
Managers report.
The only thing I want to add to my written report, and John brought it up just momentarily ago, about the 6-month note. To the best of my knowledge, I know that I cashed in on that. I sent a letter to a business cashing in on that 6-month note. So I don't know that we've ever did that before. So I'm still alive, right?
have they responded yet?
Yeah, it's the first post rest.
They're going to do it?
Dave's drive.
To connect to the railroad tracks from where they stopped as part of their parking lot thing to
They're gonna extend it
not the entire, to the right of
to the
way.
right, to the.
Railroad right of way line.
Yeah.
That's it.
So, okay, we already had. Okay, nothing else for Mark.
I have one thing. Sorry, I couldn't hear you guys for a while, but I'm not. Just one thing that I noticed in the community development report we got, the 3430 Eastern Boulevard, the zoning hearing board granted a dimensional variance for a sign, allowing for a bigger sign, contingent upon it, the light level being reduced certain times of the day. And I know I don't have all the information. I didn't even have time. I didn't have time to check the zoning ordinance, but that seems like something that somebody made up along the way. I'm not sure that any of that's zoning ordinance, but maybe it is. So I don't really expect an answer now. I just wanted to bring that up. It seems like things are getting approved to make people happy. I'll wait for the minutes to come out to review it all.
I must have missed that.
I think it was the last zoning hearing board meeting, and I didn't attend that one at all. But I don't know.
It was very odd. It's confined to this size for your sign, but will allow you to have a bigger one if you agree during certain hours to reduce the light level to 75%.
Is that something zoning can do?
I wouldn't think so.
I mean, I'm put it this way, they can do it until they can't. You know what I mean? I mean, if there's no objection to it, then it's a condition. If the applicant doesn't appeal that condition, it's
If I may, supervisors, I'd like to speak just a little bit since I was in attendance at the meeting. There was quite a few complaints by adjacent property owners that would indicate that a sign of that size would produce such an illumination that it would be interfering with their quality of life, as they stated. And ultimately, the zoning hearing board requested, in part from the request from the citizens, to have that illumination reduced for a period of time so that it wouldn't be interfering with their night hours or getting up early in the morning and having the illumination from the church sign going into their homes, whether it be the apartments or their single family homes. And that was something that the church was agreeable to ultimately. And the board decided to add that condition to allowing the size of the sign, which will exceed the ordinance requirement.
So why was the zoning hearing board feel compelled to grant the size variance?
I think in part because they had granted a variance previously for another church to have something larger than our ordinance currently allows. So rather than going.
Reason ever.
Pardon?
I said, worst reason ever. It's not about you, Randall. I'm sorry, but yeah, the other one shouldn't have been granted either.
I was curious. I don't remember the hours, but I just wondered why they wouldn't turn the sign off all night. Why does a church need an illuminated sign at night, any nighttime hours?
God does not sleep.
I guess.
But he doesn't need the light to see.
They were,
The wayward souls on 8.
the church was very adamant of not having to turn off the sign. Because they thought part, I think. They want that eliminated all the time.
In the middle of the night.
Ultimately,
Can they change the color at night?
they were agreeable to
It's an orange sign.
lessen the illumination.
Okay, this is Advent.
Pardon?
Was this Advent? Which church?
I think it was, I think that's
Advent,
right.
yeah.
There was at least 3 or 4 private citizens that either live nearby in single family homes or the apartments that we nearby indicated that illumination like that, what they're proposing would be bothersome to them, especially those hours of the day.
Could be an enforcement nightmare. Them going out at 2 o'clock in the morning.
It's late,
We made some comment to that it would be challenging to enforce. However, they indicated that they would be willing to do so. So everything is done via phone or some sort of electronic device. So they can adjust the illumination rather than repeating what we were told. And the board is.
Just something that's fine, you're thinking about the enforcement component of it, when I was serving as the zoning officer. A number of electronic signs came in, and we were very clear that we don't allow signs to move or to be dynamic, they can only change in a certain period, new pictures, and I think one of the sign company actually came in for the sign application, applied for the electric sign. Clearly told them not dynamic, the sign company put the sign up, and then the next time I drive by the church, I see the sign with all kinds of graphics moving, so I call, and the pastor of the church authorized the sign company to show up at the zoning meeting. Now, he signed the application, but didn't realize that it was restricted from being dynamic. So enforcement is very challenging on any time you're deviating from some norm. It's not going to get easier, it'll become more challenging.
All right,
Sounds like creative action by the zoning.
Yeah, I've brought it up before, but yeah, I think the zoning hearing board seems to be wanting to write zoning ordinances. It makes me uncomfortable.
okay, so now we're on to old business. Anything to discuss with the traffic calming issues and traffic control on 10th, 11th, Woodford?
We just received the speed humps either this week or last week. So Denny and I have been coordinating that. We got to get together and make sure we stake out the area where we're going to put them, get the signs up, so on. So that's on the near future.
Anything else on here we want to talk about?
The township manager's report.
No,
We just
We
did
did
that.
it?
just did it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's,
He just added about the next month.
that's where you jumped on the community development thing with the zoning hearing board. Was part of that report.
I was going.
Well, Don did, but Bob jumped on it too. All right, then, new business, admin, police building, open house and color.
What the original purpose of this line item on the agenda was to discuss an open house, when the board would like to have one. Do we want it on a standalone date? Do we want it to join with another event like the board meeting in August. There's going to be a public involvement meeting for the comp plan in the first, probably the second or third week of August. Do we want to have it at that same time? Do we want to have it around any other event? So I just wanted to get some feedback so we can get that advertised and planned.
Chief, when's National Night Out?
First.
Second. Is that too early? That's too early.
As the contractor schedule, which has not changed in the last 2 iterations.
In the last 2 seconds.
It shows August 4th of being done with.
What year?
This year, being done with the line striping and the seeding and grading. So I think that would be cutting it. Pretty close.
When is Saturday in the park?
August 5th.
That's still too tight.
That's getting pretty tight.
Board meeting is
Fourth Thursday.
24th.
So what does an open house look like? Building tours? Just reception?
I think it can be the reception, building tour. Definitely 100% not anything in the pools. Not going to be open to the public. I would prefer that it would be the lobby areas, community room, boardroom. I think it would be too hard, just my opinion, it would be cumbersome to let people behind the scenes.
Yeah,
That's just my point.
we had that discussion the other day. I think it should be public areas only. And just my personal preference would be not in conjunction with a huge event. I mean, we want it open for dignitaries. Obviously, we'll take them behind the scenes, show them the entire building. But I don't know that we want thousands of people there trying to see everything behind the scenes in the building.
So I would say this, if we, from the comprehensive plan perspective, if we could use this as an opportunity to promote that comprehensive plan event later in the month. That's part of my calculus.
Want to talk to Marion about all this. She doesn't want to wait till the tail end because that screws up their schedule.
Right.
Timing, but she was comfortable with either the second or third week of August to hold that comp plan public involvement meeting.
We could have that third week and then do the open house the second week, because that still fit.
Or do you want to have them at the same time?
I'm not thinking we want to do it. Good, see,
That would be kind of disruptive. to
yes,
the-
yeah, I mean,
So you want to have it's a standalone event.
standalone event from the community, but we promote it at the open house. So the open house for the building is a promotion opportunity along with all the other activities for the community comprehensive plan event. The subsequent.
Okay.
It's kind of like my thought. Because I agree, if you try to run that type of meeting while you're operating tours, even though you know that, hey, this is when this meeting begins, you'll still have fingers on.
Disruptive.
Yeah, it won't be as conducive. for the conversation. But I like that idea that maybe we do like e-tours early.
Yeah, if we start that before it's open to the general public, and then we can take.
Invite them to come and then maybe do the ribbon cutting right.
Right as we start with the public, which after their tours are finished.
Hopefully we get the YCPA involved, in that. They do the ribbon cuttings.
Gotta make sure they sharpen their scissors.
That sounds good.
Those are
Do
mine.
you- Just out of curiosity, do you think if we did the open house the day before the con, it might have carryover effect, it might get people involved to see the building, and then say, and oh, by the way, come back tomorrow, if we're doing on plan. Resident input,
That's a good question.
just a thought.
I'll ask Mary.
Ask Marion's thought of it,
When-
because she may have
when
done
their
it.
availability.
Sure.
Once we have it. Marion hasn't put much.
You have enough to go on? Sure. Mr. Lorker,
Yes, sir.
you wanted to address the board.
I didn't have anything to address specifically. I know there was a question last meeting. I thought I'd come and if additional questions because Diana questions about how things were generated and the timing or what the process was. And well, yeah, I went back to my records and said there's a couple presentations. That was right behind the pandemic. We went remote pretty quick, but I remember presenting something in June of 2020. So almost 3 years ago with some exterior renderings and things like that. I didn't ask for a complete sign off, but we did show the different brick colors, we did show the different lettering schemes and things like that. And then after that was kind of presented, then we went with the interior renderings, we showed some of those. So again, there were some questions about, how did that come about? And when we initially started looking at the inside, we thought, the only direction we got from the township was from the police department. They wanted to incorporate their blue, it's one of the colors that they are predominantly focused on. So that was some accents there, some carpet. When you walk through the police department, you can kind of tell it's police-ish colors. So one of the complementary colors, blue, orange. So it looked good on the warm color. You have the cool blue. Police side, we had the reddish orange brick on the outside. It would create like a warmer color for that. So that's how the process began. That's what we did. There was no agenda to stamp on it by any means. I mean, I don't like to use the term like, but I like or don't like. It seems like it went with the program, it went with the teacher out there. And it's not really on the public side of it, on Mount Zion, it's solely on let the admin when you approach it, something's bright and lively. And we don't have that color in the meeting room. We don't have it in offices. We don't have any areas where you're doing focused stuff. It's mostly in the public spaces, the cafeteria, the training room, and the library. So that was the area we thought we could have a little, not fun, but something a little pizzazz, right? So that was it. It was pretty straightforward. And that's how we did it. So any comments or other questions, be happy to try to address them. I had to think like 3 years ago, right? It was hard to remember what we did, because even I checked the drawings, it even just said there were some colors that weren't even there, and then we put the color board together. We started looking at some options. But yeah, that was, believe it or not, 3 years ago. So just wanted to share that with everybody if there's anything else.
Questions, comments?
Do you have that presentation handy?
I looked for it. I looked even on your online records. I only went back a year to see if it was recorded back then. I think it was, did you guys record those Zoom meetings like the first 2 months you were remotely? I didn't see them on your YouTube channel. I did have images with dates on them, but I don't have a presentation. I think I just put images up on there. So I do not have, I looked for it, I couldn't find it. I just had the pictures that were, printed out, because I know I put some lettering on like where the library was and on the front of the building. I know that was discussed as well. So I did bring the image. This is the one, if I could have, this was June 18th. So I had like the library. So we were thought about it. That wanted to be, I know we talked about putting something there. We took it off. We put some lights, some power in the ground. Kind of made up a name to put on there just to show you what that could look like. So again, I don't have a presentation that I asked for approval or a sign off, so to speak. It was more of a, this is the process.
See anything on the July 23rd, 2020?
At June is when I had written this, so maybe it might have been a month later, maybe the date on the image was like the next one. But we talked about the addition, where there was different options for the kitchen cafeteria, no, sorry, the kitchen catering area, the warming kitchen, and
Yeah.
so there was all, it was around that.
Yeah. I appreciate you talking through the process.
Yes.
Yes, I do appreciate that. It's not how I recall it.
Yeah.
And I don't recall this, but
It might have been part of another presentation where we were looking at the inside, still looking at layouts. But again, that was part of that, I guess a PDF that I had, or that, it wasn't a PowerPoint, it was just images. I couldn't find the date, I don't remember the date, all I have is the date on the files. But it was the last, the agenda, or the meeting that I remember talking about, it was when we talked about, still talking about options in the building, it wasn't finalized in terms of that area.
Anything else?
nothing at the moment.
Okay,
Thanks for coming.
you're welcome.
Appreciate it. Building looks awesome on the inside, by the way. All right, anything else? Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.